Story number 1: The Empty Smile. The desolate highway stretched before me like a forgotten scar on the earth. My car had sputtered its last cough miles back, leaving me stranded under the unforgiving desert sun. Sweat beaded on my forehead, mirroring the desperation rising in my chest. The phone, useless without a signal, mocked me from my pocket. Just as despair threatened to consume me, a lone figure appeared in the distance, thumb extended hopefully. He was an old man, weathered and wiry, his face etched with a lifetime etched under the harsh sun. A smile, more of a cracked mask revealing missing teeth, stretched across his face. Despite the unsettling emptiness of his eyes, my thirst and desperation outweighed my unease. I pulled over, the gravel crunching under my tires. "Need a lift, son?" His voice was a dry rasp, like sandpaper on wood. "Sure, thanks," I replied, my voice hoarse. "Just need to get to the next town." He climbed into the passenger seat, his movements slow and deliberate. A faint, unsettling odor filled the car, a mixture of dust and something metallic I couldn't place. He didn't speak, his gaze fixed on a point ahead on the road. The silence stretched, broken only by the rhythmic hum of the engine. Unease wormed its way into me. I glanced at him again. His eyes, though seemingly fixed on the road, seemed to flicker towards a worn leather satchel on his lap. Curiosity warred with caution. "What's in the bag, mister?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He didn't answer for a moment, the silence stretching until I thought he wouldn't. Then, slowly, he lifted the flap, revealing a glimpse of something metallic glinting in the harsh sunlight. A jolt of fear shot through me. "That's..." My voice caught in my throat. "Just a little souvenir," he rasped, a hint of amusement in his voice. The desert landscape seemed to blur as panic overwhelmed me. I slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a halt on the loose gravel. Before I could react, the man was out of his seat, the glint of a knife flashing in his hand. "Don't even think about it, son," he snarled, his voice a low growl. He lunged, the knife aimed at my chest. Instinct took over. I threw myself across the passenger seat, fumbling for the door handle. It wouldn't open. The child safety lock. A curse ripped from my lips. He grabbed my hair, yanking my head back, the stench of sweat and something metallic stronger now. The glint of the knife danced before my eyes. My mind raced, searching for an escape. Suddenly, a loud honking echoed from behind us. The old man flinched, momentarily distracted. It was a beat I needed. With a surge of adrenaline, I slammed my elbow back, connecting with his jaw. He yelped, dropping the knife. Scrambling across the console, I threw open the driver's door and tumbled out. He was out of the car in a heartbeat, the knife glinting in his hand. But it was too late. A beat-up pickup truck screeched to a halt, its tires kicking up a cloud of dust. Two burly construction workers jumped out, their faces etched with concern. I pointed at the old man, my voice ragged. He tried to. The man saw them, his crazed smile faltering for a moment. Then, he turned and sprinted across the desolate highway, disappearing into the shimmering heat haze. The construction workers ran after him, but it was futile. The desert swallowed him whole. They helped me back to their truck, their faces grim. As we drove away, the image of the empty smile burned into my memory, a chilling reminder of the horror that lurked on the lonely highways. The metallic smell, faint now but still lingering in the air, sent shivers down my spine. I never did find out what was in the satchel, but the memory of that glint, that empty, predatory smile, was enough to send a cold dread through me every time I saw a lone figure on a deserted road. Story number 2: The Whispering Woods. The rain hammered down, a relentless drumbeat against the rickety windshield. Visibility was a blur of gray streaks, the winding mountain road ahead disappearing into the storm's fury. My headlights cut through the downpour like weak needles, barely illuminating the treacherous path. This wasn't part of the plan. A detour due to a rockslide had added hours to my journey, leaving me stranded in the heart of the storm. My phone, predictably, was dead. Frustration gnawed at me, but there were no options. Then, through the sheets of rain, I saw it, a flickering yellow glow in the distance. Hope surged. A house. Maybe they could let me call for help or at least offer a warm drink while the storm blew over. Ignoring the growing apprehension in my gut, I pulled over onto the muddy shoulder and switched off the engine. The house, nestled deep in the woods, appeared to be a single-story cabin, smoke curling from its chimney. A lone figure stood on the porch, a dark silhouette framed by the faint yellow light spilling from the windows. They waved, a gesture that did little to ease the unease prickling at my skin. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed my backpack and sloshed towards the porch. The figure approached as I climbed the creaking steps. It was a woman, her face hidden in the shadows of the hood pulled low over her head. "Lost your way, have you?" she rasped, her voice strangely familiar, as if echoing from a forgotten dream. "Yes," I replied, trying to ignore the way my teeth chattered. "My phone's dead, and the storm." Come in," she ushered, her hands surprisingly warm despite the downpour. "Get out of this weather." The interior of the cabin was a stark contrast to the storm outside. Warm firelight flickered in the hearth, casting long shadows across the worn furniture. An old radio crackled softly in the corner, the only sound besides the relentless drumming of rain on the roof. The woman, still obscured by the hood, gestured towards a rocking chair. "Sit, child," she said, her voice strangely calming. "You look cold." I sank gratefully into the chair, the warmth seeping into my bones. The scent of something savory drifted from a pot simmering on the stove. Hunger pangs gnawed at my stomach. "That smells amazing," I ventured, desperate to break the unsettling silence. A low chuckle escaped the woman's shrouded form. "Soup. Just some simple stew. You're welcome to some." As she ladled the thick soup into a bowl, I noticed her hands, wrinkled and gnarled, with long, yellowed nails. A shiver ran down my spine. The unease that had been simmering since I first saw the house boiled over. "I should really be getting back on the road," I said, pushing the untouched bowl away. "The storm seems to be calming down." She turned, the darkness of the hood obscuring her face completely. "No, child. Stay. The roads won't be safe until morning." There was a strange intensity in her voice, a subtle command. I opened my mouth to protest, but before I could, the radio sputtered to life. A crackling voice filled the cabin, the news report garbled but clear. They were talking about a missing hiker. A young woman, last seen on this very mountain road. My blood ran cold. The woman. The old woman. Her voice. It was a match. Panic surged in my chest. I was trapped, alone with a woman who might be dangerous. "You see," the woman spoke, her voice low and chilling, "the storm keeps us company. And you'll keep me company too." Terror locked my throat. I glanced around the cabin, searching for an escape. There was a back door, but it was bolted shut. Panic choked off my breath. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside. The woman whirled around, her hood falling back to reveal a face etched with deep wrinkles and a terrifying glint in her eyes. Through the window, we saw headlights slicing through the rain. "Rescue!" My heart hammered against my ribs. A car sputtered to a stop near the porch, two figures emerging into the downpour. The woman hesitated for a fleeting moment, then turned back to me, a predatory smile twisting her lips. "Looks like our company has changed," she rasped, her voice laced with a chilling fury. The front door burst open, revealing a worried park ranger and a frantic search dog. The woman lunged at me, but before she could reach me, the ranger tackled her to the ground. A struggle ensued, the sounds muffled by the relentless drumming of rain. Through the window, I saw the search dog sniffing at the ground, then letting out a sharp bark near the back of the cabin. Hope surged through me. The police would be here soon. The ranger, a burly man with a thick mustache, wrestled the woman to the ground. Her crazed eyes met mine for a fleeting moment, a flicker of recognition replaced by a chilling fury. The radio on the table sputtered back to life, the news report now clear. They were talking about a possible predator targeting hikers on the mountain road, a woman fitting the description of the one I was now watching struggle against the ranger. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer with each passing second. Relief washed over me, mingled with a sickening dread. The woman, finally subdued, spat threats at me, her voice laced with a desperate venom. With a heavy heart, I realized the company she'd been referring to wasn't just me. Later, as I gave my statement to the arriving police officers, the search dog emerged from the woods behind the cabin. Its handler, a grim-faced officer, held a tattered backpack aloft. My backpack. Inside, the officers found a half-eaten granola bar and a crumpled map. The map of the young hiker who had vanished days earlier. The image of the twisted smile on the woman's face remained etched in my memory long after the storm had cleared and I had returned home. The nightmare of the secluded cabin served as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places. And the question that continued to haunt me, whispered on the wind like the echoes of the storm, was how many others had kept that woman company before me. Story number 3: The Songbird and the Shadow. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dusty highway. Sarah, a young musician with a yearning for adventure, clutched her worn guitar case as she stood by the roadside, thumb extended hopefully. Empty miles stretched before her, the silence broken only by the chirping of crickets and the occasional rumble of a distant truck. After what felt like an eternity, a sleek black car slowed down beside her. The driver, a handsome man with an easy smile, rolled down the window. "Hitching a ride, miss?" His voice was smooth as velvet. Sarah hesitated for a moment, the man's charm at odds with the unsettling glint in his eyes. But the prospect of sleeping in a real bed that night, instead of another roadside motel, won her over. "Thanks," she replied, climbing into the passenger seat. The air inside the car was heavy with the scent of expensive cologne and something else, a faint metallic tang that made her nose wrinkle. Ignoring the unease that prickled at her skin, she strapped on her seatbelt. "Where are you headed?" the man asked, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. "Next town, if that's all right." She offered him a smile. He nodded, but didn't return it. The silence stretched, broken only by the soft hum of the engine. Sarah, desperate to ease the tension, reached for her guitar case. "Mind if I play something?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He shrugged, his indifference both frustrating and unsettling. Sarah pulled out her guitar, the familiar wood a comfort in the increasingly strange atmosphere. She strummed a few chords, letting the melody flow out, a gentle folk song about following your dreams. As she played, the man's eyes seemed to flicker in the rearview mirror. An icy coldness snaked down her spine. Something was wrong. She stopped playing, her fingers hovering over the strings. "That was nice," he said finally, his voice devoid of warmth. "Thanks," she replied, her voice tight. A glance at the dashboard clock confirmed her worst fear. Hours had somehow passed since she'd gotten in the car. Where were they? "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. He didn't answer, his silence a heavy weight in the car. Panic prickled at the edges of her mind. She had to get out. Suddenly, she spotted a gas station sign in the distance, a beacon of hope in the approaching darkness. "Pull over," she pleaded, her voice firm despite the fear threatening to consume her. "Almost there," he muttered, his voice flat. "No, pull over now," she insisted, her voice sharp with urgency. He hesitated for a moment, then reluctantly pulled off the highway, the car screeching to a halt next to the gas station. Without waiting for him to react, Sarah unbuckled her seatbelt and threw open the door. "Thank you for the ride," she stammered, fleeing towards the brightly lit gas station. She didn't dare look back, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm in her chest. Inside the gas station, she rushed towards the counter, collapsing onto a stool. A young woman behind the counter, her face etched with concern, offered her a glass of water. "Are you all right?" she asked, her voice gentle. Sarah could only nod, tears welling up in her eyes. She explained what had happened, the fear and confusion spilling out in a torrent of words. The young woman listened patiently, then picked up the phone behind the counter. Minutes later, a police car pulled up outside. 2 officers, a grizzled veteran and a young rookie, came in and took Sarah's statement. They seemed skeptical at first, but her sincerity and the undeniable fear in her voice finally convinced them. "We'll get a patrol car to check out the road," the veteran officer promised, his voice gruff but kind. As they left, Sarah noticed the young rookie officer staring at her intently. He approached her with a hesitant smile. "You're Sarah, aren't you?" he asked. "The singer?" Sarah blinked, surprised. "Yeah, that's me. I've seen your videos online," he grinned, his earlier nervousness replaced by excitement. "You're amazing." A wave of relief washed over her. For the first time that night, she genuinely smiled. Maybe, just maybe, the nightmare was over. The news crew arrived the next day. Sarah, still shaken but unharmed, recounted her ordeal on camera.